Hi, I'm Rob Schneider, and I'm a patient and friend of Dr. Sadeghi. Dr. Sadeghi approaches this really as your friend and as a colleague in your wellness. You know, for me, this has been a life-changing experience because, you know, I was a guy who was getting used to feeling sluggish and not very well. And this is, you know, coming from a guy who exercises, who eats right, and takes a lot of supplements. But there was still something basic in my immune system that just wasn't flying. I mean, I've been in, you know, I think of myself as trying to get healthy for years and years. This, in the shortest amount of time, had the most incredible results.
My healing story began in 2006 after I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. I heard of Dr. Sadeghi and I decided to give it a chance. I had nothing to lose, and integrative healing was new to me. It's been 10 months since I've seen him, and I still have my thyroid, and my thyroid is working great.
I've always been a real health conscious kind of guy and a student of Oriental medicine myself at the time. So it was a bit of a mystery to everybody concerned. My symptoms were mostly neurological symptoms, but I lost my vision, double vision, you know, facial paralysis, dramatic stuff. You know, I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, and then finally I couldn't swallow. And so I had to have surgery. I had to have a tube inserted in my stomach. You know, it was bad. I found some good doctors. Some of them were in the hospital and they were helpful in their way, but they didn't know all the answers and they really didn't know what was wrong with me. They kept saying, well, we're not really sure. So anyway, at one point there, I got referred to Dr. Sadeghi, and I'd say the difference in Dr. Sadeghi's approach and actually, you know, the thing that saved my life and kept me going was this conviction that there's got to be answers and there's got to be ways through. When Dr. Sadeghi came to see me in the hospital, it was very interesting because, you know, I was on 2 IVs and this stomach tube constantly, so you're always being invaded. And he came in and he just sort of laid his hands on me, you know, and just sort of took a very compassionate, low-key, in-touch sort of approach. It wasn't like mystical or airy-fairy because he also looked at all my charts and instantly, within minutes, looked at a couple of things and went, oh, your copper levels are out the roof and your thyroid is, because I thought maybe something was wrong with my thyroid. He said, yeah, your thyroid's off. So it wasn't like he didn't encompass those things, but he also encompassed a more humane spiritual side of it, which made me trust the guy, you know. And he found a couple of things that were clearly wrong, like right off the bat. But he didn't exclude the intuitive side of the picture.
Why was my body, my own immune system, eating my thyroid? I had to get to the bottom of that. Dr. Sadeghi looked at my blood tests, and indeed I had Hashimoto's thyroiditis. He was convinced that I could heal myself. Within 3 months, my thyroid levels were back to normal. I no longer have Hashimoto's thyroiditis.
Hi, my name is Mark Jennings. In March of 2011, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer. Immediately after that diagnosis, I found myself in the emergency room where the doctors and surgeons took out about 8 to 10 inches of my intestine, along with the entire cancer with it. One of the things that kind of bothered me about this whole process was none of them talked about alternatives. So I took it upon myself, did some research, bought various books, and one of the books I bought was Knockout by Suzanne Summers. In the back of that book, I found Dr. S. After visiting his website and listening to the various testimonials about his approach, I decided to give him a call. I was impressed, first of all, by his energy, by his attitude, how much he seemed to care about what I was going through. He spent 2 hours with me, and we went through everything from my diet to my exercise routine, to my family history, to what my job and my stresses were, to things I might look at having to change, to what the therapies would be, to how one, you know, how colon cancer might manifest itself, and maybe what had happened, although we'll never know for sure, and things that happened in my life that could, you know, that may have made this happen, and what I would have to do going forward. 2 hours. So I felt very comfortable with that, and I made the decision not to do the chemo. but to go with Dr. S. So in June we did another blood test. We did one in April, one in June. And in June, the numbers were amazing. And what Dr. S always told me, he says, look, we're going to show you what to do. We're going to coach you here, but we're going to prove that everything's working through science, through the numbers. And that's exactly what happened. In fact, the results were so good in that short period of time, that 8-9 weeks. Even my other doctors were asking me, what did you do? How did this happen? How did those numbers move so much? What did you change? So in October of 2011, which is now, I had the surgery to reverse the colonoscopy. That was a little over 2 weeks ago. So as you can see, I'm sitting here talking to you. It's been just over 2 weeks since that surgery. I feel great. I have energy. And again, thanks to Dr. S's coaching and preparing me for that surgery, I can't even believe how good I feel just after 2 weeks out of a major surgery. About 4 days ago, I received an email from one of my other doctors who took some blood from me in the hospital and did a test, a very specialized test where they look for cancer cells in your blood. And this particular test was looking for colorectal cancer cells. And the paper is right here. Of course, I'm sure you won't be able to read that, but basically what it says is that I have 0 colorectal cancer cells in my bloodstream, 0. So if you have a disease and you're looking for alternatives, maybe you have cancer, you're looking for alternative, or maybe you just want to maintain a higher level of health, then I can't recommend Dr. S enough. He's extremely loving. He takes the time with you. He cares about you. He's just a phenomenal doctor. He's everything that I was looking for in a doctor. And also a quick shout out to Amy and the gang at the office, who are just fantastic, amazing office staff. If you're thinking about calling Dr. S, I really highly recommend you do. And I'm sure he can help you like he helped me. Thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.
Why am I tearful? Because I can feel again, and I like it, and I know I'm not there all the way. I'm afraid I'm going to go back, and I don't want to go back. I don't want to miss my life anymore. I just want to be better. I knew I was sick. It started, actually, it was Christmas Eve. I couldn't stand, my back hurt so badly, and I thought, this is weird. And from then on, I had buzzing in my legs, my hands would go numb. Sometimes I couldn't stand up at work. I'd have to put my body against a desk when I was standing so people wouldn't notice. And so I masked all that at work, and then I tried to figure out on the side what was wrong with me. Went to a bunch of different doctors, my family doctor, had tests for everything, nothing came back. Finally went to the hospital and told them I wasn't leaving until they told me what was wrong with me, and then after a bunch of tests they said they think it's MS. They sent me for an MRI, but there was no lesions or anything that would make them think it was MS, so then they said I was probably depressed. So I went on antibiotics. And then I hired this girl at work who told me about you. And I didn't know her well. And I figured out who you were, and I just came down here. And it was funny because when I walked in, she was here, and I hadn't told her I was coming. But she was fine. And since then, the protocol at the beginning has helped. I can feel myself coming alive, and now I feel more alive. But now I'm scared I'm going to go back. And I want to go back.
I hear you. You're not going to. You're not going to go back. You're not going to go back. They thought that you were depressed, and then they start you on antibiotics, or?
Well, I kept having sinus infections. And that's when I knew, because I would go on by accident. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel like a million times better. There must be something else wrong. So I would go and see what Bioxin would treat. And I knew I'd been bitten by something, but they wouldn't test me for Lyme because supposedly there's no Lyme disease in Alberta. So if I was going to tell anybody, you know when there's something wrong with you, and so don't give up. You know. So it doesn't matter who around you says no, you know.
I listened to my instinct one time in my life, and it was when I needed to, it was you. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.